Some things in Ireland are best left buried. A bell sealed in a tower, a painting locked in a basement, a crucifix that keeps coming back from the sea. They look harmless, ordinary, forgotten, but the moment you touch them, something changes. And what follows never lets go. These are not just haunted places, these are cursed objects, 10 of them, scattered across Ireland, each one with a warning and a price. Do not touch these cursed Irish objects. The bell that rings before someone dies, Tullamore, County Offaly. There's an old bell tucked away in a stone chapel just outside Tullamore, County Offaly. It's not on display. There's no plaque, no rope to ring it, and no mention in tourist brochures. But the locals know it's there, and they know what it means when it rings, because this bell doesn't wait for someone to pull it. It rings on its own, and only when someone's about to die. The bell dates back to the early 1700s, once used by a small group of monks who lived in isolation near the woods. It's said they rang it during burials, one toll for each soul. But something changed after a bitter winter, when 6 monks died within a week. The surviving brother reportedly rang the bell so often it cracked. He disappeared soon after. The bell was sealed in the chapel tower and left to rust, until the day it rang again, decades later. It happened on a clear summer evening in 1832. The local priest was locking up when the bell tolled 3 times. He climbed the tower but found no one there and no sign of movement. He told himself it must have been the wind. That night, 3 people from the parish died suddenly: a fisherman, a farmer, and the priest's own sister. Word spread fast. From then on, the bell became a local omen. Whenever it rang without reason, someone in the area died, always within 24 hours, and always someone nearby. For generations, no one dared go near it. Until recently. In 2015, a tourist from the UK named Matthew was exploring the old church ruins with a walking group. He got separated and wandered into the chapel tower. There he found the old bell, dusty, streaked with rust, and hanging low. It didn't look like much. He took a selfie with it. Then, as a joke, he pulled gently on the edge to hear it chime. The sound was sharp, metallic, and echoed strangely off the stone walls. A few others heard it too. Later that night he posted the photo online. He captioned it, "Rang the death bell. Guess I'm cursed now." That was at 8:42 p.m. At 8:42 the next evening, Matthew's Airbnb host found him lying on the bedroom floor, cold and lifeless. Heart failure. No history, no warning signs. Some called it coincidence. Locals didn't. In the weeks that followed, 3 more tourists reported hearing a bell ring once while walking past the chapel ruins. None of them touched it, but one claimed that when she looked up at the tower, she saw a figure standing just behind the opening. Tall, thin, and cloaked in shadow. There's a rumour now that the bell doesn't just ring for the dying. It chooses. Today the chapel is closed off, but people still walk by. Some say they've heard a faint ringing on the wind. One clear chime, always close by, even when the air is still. Locals say if you ever hear it, don't speak of it. Don't try to explain it away, and never touch the bell, because once you do, it might not wait to toll for someone else. It might ring for you. The Mirror in the Attic, Limerick City. There's a row of Georgian townhouses in the heart of Limerick, most of them now converted into offices and flats. But one of them, number 16, has sat empty for years. The windows are dusty, the door is padlocked. And if you ask the neighbours why no one renovates it, they'll tell you quietly, because of the mirror in the attic. The house once belonged to the O'Hara family, wealthy merchants in the late 1800s. The attic was used for storage, a forgotten place with old trunks, broken furniture, and one tall mirror leaning against the wall. It was a wedding gift brought over from Spain. Heavy oak frame, glass dark as water. It's said that shortly after it arrived, people in the house started acting strangely. Mrs. O'Hara began locking her bedroom door every night. One of the servants quit without notice, claiming she saw someone moving in the attic while everyone else was asleep. In 1894, the eldest son, Thomas, was found dead in front of the mirror. No wounds, no poison, just collapsed, eyes wide, staring at his own reflection. His mother had to be sedated. She kept repeating, "He saw something in the glass, and it saw him." After that, the attic was sealed. For decades, the house passed from owner to owner, never staying occupied long. In 1973, a young couple moved in and decided to renovate. The man, Liam, found the mirror while clearing the attic and decided to keep it. He cleaned the glass and brought it downstairs, hanging it in the hallway. That night, his wife woke screaming. She said she'd seen someone in the mirror, standing behind Liam as he brushed his teeth. When she turned around, no one was there, but in the reflection the figure remained, just barely visible over his shoulder. Liam laughed it off. 3 days later, he was dead. He fell from the top of the stairs. His wife swore he was backing away from the mirror when he slipped. The mirror was returned to the attic and bricked in. The house has remained empty ever since. In 2008, a removal man was hired to clear out furniture for auction. He broke through the attic wall, found the mirror, and decided to take a quick photo of it. Just one. His phone crashed and he felt a sharp chill in the room. He left immediately, refusing to take anything from the house. When he got home, he checked the photo. The mirror reflected not just the attic, but a woman's face behind him, even though no one else had been there. He deleted the photo. The chill stayed with him for weeks. Today, number 16 still stands. Untouched, unsold. The mirror is still there, according to builders who once tried to remove it, but refused to go back inside. Locals say if you walk by at dusk, you might see a pale light in the attic window, as if someone is still standing in front of the glass. But no one is ever seen leaving. And if you ever do go in, if you find the mirror, don't look too long, because it doesn't just reflect what's behind you, it shows what's waiting for you. The Dáil Kilbride Church, County Meath. There's an old ruined church outside Kilbride, tucked away in the overgrown back roads of County Meath. The roof is long gone, the graveyard sunken and scattered with broken headstones. Most who pass it don't even realise what it once was. But locals know the place, and they know never to touch the doll buried under the third window. The story begins in 1910, when a farmer's son, just 5 years old, was buried near the back wall of the churchyard. His mother placed a porcelain doll, his favourite, at the foot of the grave. She wrapped it in his blanket, kissed its forehead, and tucked it into the earth herself. 3 days later, the grave was found disturbed. The earth was soft. The doll had been dug up and placed on top of the headstone, sitting upright, facing the church door. At first, the family blamed animals or vandals, but the grave was refilled and the same thing happened again and again, until the priest insisted it be buried in a lead-lined box. The disturbances stopped, but the sounds began. Visitors reported hearing soft crying near the grave at dusk, high-pitched like a child sobbing quietly. Some heard it from inside the church, others swore it came from beneath the soil. Once, in 1949, a boy who wandered too close said he heard a voice whisper in his ear, "Mine." The church was abandoned not long after. Years passed. Most people forgot the stories. The site became nothing more than a moss-covered ruin. That is until 1996, when a group of amateur ghost hunters visited Kilbride for a Halloween livestream. One of them, a man named Darren, claimed he could feel the cold spot near the old grave. He brought a spade. The others begged him not to disturb anything, but he didn't listen. He dug down a few inches and uncovered the edge of a cloth-wrapped object. When he pulled it up, it was the doll. Still intact, still staring. He took it home. Within a week, Darren had stopped replying to texts. Friends said he looked pale and gaunt. He said the doll moved positions in the night. Once he found it at the foot of his bed, even though he'd locked it in a cupboard. He was found dead in his flat 11 days after the livestream, collapsed in the hallway, the doll beside him. There were scratch marks along the floorboards. The doll was returned to Kilbride, buried again. No one knows exactly where now, only that it rests beneath a broken window, and the locals say if you find it, do not pick it up. Do not speak to it. Do not even look it in the eyes. Because if you do, the crying begins. And once you hear it, it doesn't stop. Not until you're buried beside it. The Chair in the Mourne Mountains, County Down. Deep in the Mourne Mountains, where the trees begin to thin and the paths grow quiet, there's a place hikers call the Hollow. It's not on any official map, but those who've been there describe the same thing. A narrow clearing surrounded by twisted pine, and in the centre, an old wooden chair. No one knows who placed it there. It's too far from any cottage or trail, but everyone agrees on one thing. You don't sit in that chair. The first story dates back to 1937. A shepherd found the chair while looking for a lost lamb. He sat to rest and soon felt the air go cold, despite it being high summer. When he returned home, he told his wife he felt like something had followed him down the mountain. He died in his sleep that night, his expression frozen in fear. Years passed, and the story became local folklore. A few brave souls claimed to have found the hollow, but none dared to sit. Then, in 1992, a group of university students decided to hike into the Mournes to find it. One of them, a girl named Rachel, laughed off the warnings and sat in the chair for a photo. Her smile vanished as soon as she stood. That night the others heard her whispering to someone in her tent. Only she was alone. The next morning she was pale, shaking, and insisted they leave. She never spoke of what happened again. 2 weeks later, she vanished from her flat in Belfast. Her front door was locked from the inside. All her belongings remained, but her boots, muddy with pine needles, were missing. In recent years, several experienced hikers have reported strange activity in that part of the Mournes. One man followed a GPS route past a grove of trees and heard a voice that sounded like his mother, calling his name. She'd been dead for years. Another described a deep, vibrating sound near the hollow, low and pulsing, as though the earth itself was warning him away. The chair is still there, weathered, moss-covered and slightly off-kilter. No signs of rot, no damage from storms, just sitting, untouched. Locals say that if you sit in it, something attaches to you. It doesn't attack, not at first. It watches, waits, mimics. Then, when you're alone, when no one can help, it makes itself known. One hiker who returned after 30 years swore the chair had moved, shifted to face a different direction, pointing toward the valley below. He never went back. The Forestry Service won't mark the area. Search and rescue teams have responded to multiple distress calls nearby, always from people who sound disoriented, claiming to see paths that don't exist or hearing footsteps that circle their tent at night. So if you're walking in the Mournes and find a clearing too quiet, with no birdsong, no wind, and a strange pressure in the air, turn around. And if you see the chair, don't sit, don't speak, and don't look at it too long, because it's not just a place to rest, it's a place to be claimed. The painting in the hotel cellar, Kilrush, County Clare. The hotel had been empty for years. A tall, slate-roofed building at the edge of Kilrush, left abandoned after a fire in the 1980s. Most of the damage was on the top floor, but the cellar remained untouched, sealed behind a warped wooden door. In 2009, a developer bought the building with plans to convert it into apartments. Workers were sent to clear out the basement. That's when they found the painting. It was propped against the far wall, an oil portrait of a young girl no older than 8. She stood barefoot in a white dress, holding what looked like a broken toy horse. Her eyes were dark, too large, and her expression unreadable. The frame was unburnt, the glass had no dust. No one had any record of it ever being in the hotel. One of the workers, curious, lifted it out and leaned it against a wall upstairs. He took a photo to show the owner, but when he checked his phone later, the image was black. All except the eyes. They were still visible. That night the same man woke to the feeling of being watched. He sat up, turned on the light, and saw nothing. But in the corner of his room there was water on the floor, like someone had stood there with soaking wet feet. He didn't return to work the next day. Another worker was told to move the painting into storage, As he carried it, he thought he saw the girl blink. He laughed it off. But later that night, he suffered sleep paralysis. He described a figure standing in his room, just out of focus, humming a tune he couldn't quite place. The humming continued for 3 nights. Eventually, the developer ordered the painting destroyed. They took it outside, poured fuel over it, and lit a match. The fire would not take. The wood smoked, but wouldn't catch. The flames curled around the edges, but the paint never peeled. Finally, they buried it behind the hotel, near the garden wall. The next morning, the dig site was flat, no sign of fresh earth, and the painting was back in the cellar. They left it. The hotel was never renovated. The developer pulled out of the project within weeks and refused to comment. Today, the building still stands, slowly rotting, its windows dark. But some nights, just after 3 a.m, people walking by swear they see a light in the basement. One man, out walking his dog, said he saw a girl standing behind the glass, holding a toy horse and staring directly at him. When he blinked, she was gone. Locals believe the painting isn't just haunted, it's a prison, a soul bound to canvas, and it cannot be moved, destroyed or forgotten. It must remain in that place, waiting. So if you ever find yourself near the old hotel in Kilrush, don't look in the cellar window. And if you see a girl standing there, don't meet her gaze, because if she sees you clearly, you'll see her again. But next time it won't be in a painting. The Iron Mask from Spike Island, County Cork. Spike Island has long been called Ireland's Alcatraz, a prison, fortress and monastic site, surrounded by dark water and darker history. Thousands passed through its cells over the centuries, but one object remained long after the prisoners were gone: an iron mask, worn not for protection but punishment. It was discovered in a locked storeroom during renovation work in the early 2000s, a rusted, heavy cage meant to be clamped over the head of solitary inmates. Inside, its lining was scored with deep scratches, nail marks, some said. The prison's oldest records mention it only once, used to silence the dangerous. The mask was moved to the on-site museum, displayed in a glass case with a short plaque. Most visitors passed it without a second glance. But then the dreams began. Several museum staff reported vivid nightmares after locking up late, always the same. They were trapped in a stone room, unable to move, with iron tightening around their head. One woman quit after 3 weeks, claiming she'd woken with bruises around her jaw. Then came the tourist. A man in his 30s, visiting from the UK, joked with his friends about the mask. He asked a staff member if it had ever been worn in a horror film. When the room emptied, he reached into the open-top case and touched it. Just for a second. That night he woke gasping, claiming someone had screamed into his ear, not from the room, from inside his head. Over the following days he changed. His friends said he became withdrawn, paranoid, said he heard voices when the TV was off. He returned to the island alone, demanding to see the storeroom where the mask had been found. He never made it there. He collapsed on the ferry back to the mainland. A heart attack, they said, but the autopsy revealed something strange. His vocal cords were severely damaged, as if he'd been screaming for hours. He hadn't made a sound. Since then, the mask has been placed back in storage, no longer on display. But guards report hearing faint metallic clanging from the locked case at night. Cameras glitch when pointed at the box. One cleaner saw a face reflected in the glass. Not her own, but a man's, mouth open in silent agony. Some believe the mask doesn't just silence the wearer. It keeps what was inside. And every time it's touched, it remembers what it was made for. Today, Spike Island is a popular tourist attraction, but there's a new rule posted in the museum's back rooms. Do not touch artefacts without permission. It doesn't mention the mask by name. It doesn't have to. So if you find yourself walking through those quiet corridors and you come across an old iron mask in a case, don't lean in, don't speak. And whatever you do, don't put it on, because the silence it brings is permanent. The book at St Mullins, County Carlow. St Mullins, a quiet riverside village in County Carlow, is known for its ancient monastery ruins and peaceful graveyard. Pilgrims come for the views, historians come for the heritage, but beneath one of the collapsed archways, in the cold dust of a crypt, something was found. A book, leather bound, sealed tight with black cord. No title, no markings, just a single line on the inside cover, scorched into the parchment. Only open in truth. It was discovered by accident in 1981. A small group of archaeologists were cataloguing the site when they broke through a soft section of floor. Inside the chamber, undisturbed for centuries, was a small stone plinth and the book resting on top. One of the team, a man named Declan, opened it on the spot. He expected Latin script, maybe ancient prayers. Instead, the first page was blank. Then, slowly, a single name appeared, written in perfect black ink. His wife's name. He turned the page. There was a date. 2 weeks later, she died in a car crash, right on time. At first, it was dismissed as coincidence, but when the book was taken to Dublin for examination, 2 more people opened it. Both found names they recognised. One saw his sister's, the other his own. They both died within the month. Terrified, the researchers returned the book to St Mullins, but no one would put it back in the crypt. Instead, it was sealed in a lead box and stored in a nearby archive marked private, restricted access. Still, the stories leaked out. A student working late claimed to hear pages turning behind a locked cabinet. A night guard said he saw writing appearing on the glass without a pen, just a name and a date, which vanished by morning. Eventually the book was moved again. Its location is now classified, but rumours persist. One archivist said the book chooses who it reveals itself to. Most people see nothing, but those with secrets or guilt see names that shouldn't be there. Loved ones, enemies, themselves. And no matter who you see, one thing is always true. The date never changes. Local folklore now refers to it as the Death Book. Some believe it's cursed by a monk who foresaw the end of his own order. Others claim it was used in rituals long before the monastery ever stood. But everyone agrees on one thing. You do not open it unless you're ready to pay. So if you ever hear of a blank book locked away in an archive or buried under stone, don't ask to see it. Don't seek it out. And if you ever do hold it in your hands trembling and turn that first page, pray that it stays empty, because once the ink appears, it cannot be erased. The Stone in the Fairy Fort, Gort, County Galway. Outside the town of Gort, in a quiet pasture surrounded by low hills, sits a small ring of earth and stones. Cows graze around it. Birds perch nearby. But nothing grows inside the ring. No grass, no moss, just bare, dry earth. Locals call it the Fairy Fort. They don't walk through it, they don't touch it, and they certainly don't remove anything from it. But in 1974, a farmer named Michael Kelleher did. He'd just bought the land and didn't believe in superstitions. One afternoon, while clearing the field for fencing, he entered the fort and found a flat stone carved with spiral markings, half buried in the centre. Curious, he lifted it, tossed it in the trailer, and brought it back to his yard. That night, his cattle broke through 2 gates and vanished. They were found 2 days later, huddled at the edge of a bog, covered in cuts and shaking violently. None of them produced milk again. The vet had no explanation. Michael thought little of it, until the lights came. Every night for the next week, soft green glows flickered through the trees behind his house. He assumed they were foxes or headlights, but then they began to drift across the field, floating, not moving. His dog refused to leave the porch. Birds stopped nesting in the hedges. On the 7th night, Michael heard knocking at the back door. When he opened it, no one was there, but his trailer, the one he'd used to carry the stone, was tipped onto its side, wheels spinning. The next morning, he returned the stone to the fort and placed it exactly where he'd found it. The light stopped. Over the years, others have tried to find the same stone. Some have claimed to see it. Others say it's gone. But one thing remains. Anyone who disturbs the ring, moves a rock, picks a flower, even walks across it, loses something. A tool breaks. A child gets sick. A shadow appears in photographs. In 2001, a tourist collecting souvenirs from ancient sites pocketed a pebble from the Gort fort. The next night she was thrown from her horse during a trail ride, though the horse had never bucked before. She mailed the pebble back to the Gort post office with a note. "Please return to where it came from." The note was unsigned. Today the land remains fenced but untouched. The ring sits just beyond a narrow lane. Drivers who pull over at dusk often report seeing movement in the centre of the circle, too small to be a person, too fluid to be an animal. Locals don't go near it. They say it doesn't matter if you believe in fairies or not, they believe in you, and if you take what's theirs, they'll take something in return. So if you ever find a strange stone in the centre of an ancient ring, smooth and warm to the touch, carved with symbols you don't understand, put it back before something comes looking for it. The coin, Ross Castle, County Kerry. Ross Castle, perched on the edge of Lough Lean near Killarney, is a picture-perfect ruin, stone towers, sweeping lake views, and the kind of stillness that settles deep in your bones. Tourists come for the beauty, but some leave with more than memories, because buried somewhere beneath the outer wall is a coin. Not gold, not silver, just a plain, weathered disc said to grant a wish, if you bury it with your own hand. The story dates back to the early 1800s, when a soldier stationed at the castle claimed to find the coin beneath a flagstone. That night, he joked that he wished to leave Ireland forever. The next morning his orders arrived. He was reassigned to India. He never returned. The coin vanished until it resurfaced decades later when a local fisherman unearthed it while planting near the castle grounds. Desperate for money, he held it tight and wished for fortune. The next week he won £30 in a card game, then drowned the following day. His body washed ashore with the coin pressed into his hand. The pattern continued. People who made a wish and buried the coin beneath the castle often got what they wanted, but the cost always followed. In 1931, a girl wished for her mother to recover from illness. She did, but the girl lost her sight a week later. In 1957, a man wished for his rival to fail. The rival went bankrupt. The man was struck by lightning 2 days later, and in each case, the coin returned. It always finds its way back to the castle grounds, no matter how far it travels, no matter how deep it's buried. In recent years, a tourist from the United States found the coin behind a loose stone near the path. Not knowing the legend, he kept it as a souvenir and joked online, "Magic coin. What should I wish for?" That evening he tweeted that his ex had texted him out of nowhere. The next morning, his Airbnb caught fire. He was hospitalised with burns. When his luggage was recovered, the coin was gone. In its place was a folded piece of paper, soaked through but legible. Wish fulfilled. Today, the exact location of the coin is unknown. Some say it moves on its own, drawn to those who want too much. Others claim it only appears when the castle senses someone desperate enough to use it. Locals won't touch it. They won't even point if asked. They just tell you to leave it be. Because the coin gives you what you ask for, and then it takes what it wants. So if you're walking near Ross Castle and spot a small worn coin in the grass, cold to the touch, humming faintly in your hand, drop it. Walk away. And whatever you do, don't make a wish. The Crucifix from Rathlin Island, County Antrim. Rathlin Island, just off the coast of County Antrim, is a place of mist, cliffs and silence. With a population barely over 100, life there moves slowly, shaped by the sea. But every so often, something washes ashore that doesn't belong. In 1901, after a violent storm, a fisherman found a wooden crucifix tangled in seaweed on the north beach. It was charred black, heavy despite its size, and carved with unfamiliar symbols on the back, symbols that didn't match any language. He brought it home and hung it above the fireplace. That night, a storm returned. Worse than the first. Boats were destroyed, chimneys collapsed. The man's cottage was struck by lightning. He survived, but the crucifix was untouched, not a mark on it. The priest insisted it be buried in the churchyard, but by morning it was gone. 2 weeks later, it washed ashore again. Since then, the crucifix has appeared several more times, always after a storm, always found by someone new. Each time, those who keep it suffer strange misfortunes, shipwrecks, illnesses, sudden deaths, and every time someone tries to dispose of it, bury it, burn it, throw it into the sea, it comes back. In 1965, a man from the mainland took the crucifix as a cursed souvenir. He told the ferry captain he planned to mount it in his pub. He never made it home. The captain said he stood at the edge of the deck, staring out at the sea, then collapsed. No injuries, no cause of death, just stopped. When his belongings were returned to the pub, the crucifix wasn't among them. It was back on the beach 2 days later. More recently, in 2012, a group of amateur paranormal investigators visited Rathlin. One of them found the crucifix half buried in sand and decided to film himself holding it. He joked on camera saying, "Let's see if the curse is real." That night, a freak storm grounded all ferries. The team was stranded on the island for 3 days. During that time, the man who held the crucifix had repeated nightmares of drowning, waking each night soaked in sweat, even though the cottage was cold. When they finally left, he left the crucifix behind. But a week later, he received a parcel. No return address. Inside was a block of driftwood carved with a cross, and his name etched into the back. He doesn't speak publicly anymore. Today, the people of Rathlin don't go near the beach where the crucifix tends to appear. They say it was never meant to be found, that it didn't come from a church. It came from something else, something buried at sea, something that still wants to be worshipped. So if you're walking the shoreline after a storm and see a cross in the sand, black and heavy, humming in your hand, put it back, because once it's in your home it stays, and the sea will come to collect what's owed. It always starts the same way. You see something strange, you feel a chill. You pick it up, just for a second, and after that, it follows. The bell rings again, the mirror shifts, the coin finds its way back, and the voice that wasn't there last night is waiting tonight. You were warned, but you touched it anyway. This was 10 Cursed Irish Objects. Subscribe now for more stories Ireland tried to forget.